They started as oddities, little flying pests that could do some minor damage, but would clearly make no difference in the Ukraine war. But times have changed. Drones have changed too. From oddities to essentials, Ukraine's drones have now become the most important weapon that the country has in its defense against Russia. And in this video, we're going to take you inside the drone unit that has turned hunting Russia into a 24/7 McDonald's operation. The drone unit is the Lasar Group, and that group has a surprisingly strange history. On January 16th, the Wall Street Journal enjoyed the privilege of being one of the few Western media outlets that the Lazar Group has allowed into its domain. Operating inside a secret bunker, dozens of Ukraine's top drone operators work in cycles, ensuring that Russia's forces can never escape the scourge of the flying menaces that are doing too much damage to Putin's efforts to invade. This is a 24/7 operation that is deadly efficient and has been built on the back of a McDonald's-like model in which every person in the bunker serves a purpose and all work toward a singular goal. For McDonald's, it's selling burgers. For Ukraine, the model is all about pushing more Russian troops into the meat grinder. The Lazar Group's results have been spectacular, as you'll learn a little later in the video. However, the unit's formative days were unlike anything that you might expect from a group that has become one of the most important parts of Ukraine's military. The Lazar Group wasn't founded by some technical genius, it certainly wasn't created by those serving in Ukraine's military. Rather, the group was the brainchild of somebody who you might never expect to be at the helm of one of Ukraine's most effective units, Pavlo Yelizarov. A former television talk show producer turned military mover and shaker. Perhaps this evolution isn't as much of a surprise as it seems to be on the surface. After all, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky was famously a comedian with no political experience who has become the brave face of an entire country that is fighting against Putin's aggression. Far from being an outlier, Forbes reported in October, Yelizarov is the founder of one of the many effective structures Ukraine has used in its war against Russia that were built by civilians. The former TV producer, who worked on a television show fittingly called Freedom of Speech, made his big move when Russia's invasion hit his home in Pechesk, which is in central Kyiv. As explosions shook the ground outside his home, Yelizarov realized that a war that he never believed would happen had arrived. He became glued to the television news, tracking every minute of the invasion until he finally felt the need to act. Picking up the telephone was Yelizarov's first major contribution to the war effort. He called the former Ukrainian Defense Minister Alexei Reznikov, with no expectation that he would ever get an answer, but Reznikov picked up. Soon after he made the call, the TV producer enlisted in Ukraine's new 126th Territorial Defense Battalion, where he was tasked with defending the Darnitsia district from the Russian invasion. With his AK-47 in his hands, Yelizarov started organizing people and resources. He built checkpoints, sourced equipment, and repaired the creaking battalion headquarters that had been formed in a kindergarten building. It was likely at this time that Yelizarov realized that he could contribute more. The TV producer had the equivalent of $1.1 million in cold hard cash. He spent more than $400,000 of that money during the first month or so of serving as a territorial defender. By early April, the fighting in Kyiv had stopped, and Yelizarov was fortunate enough not to have seen combat during those early weeks of the war. As it turned out, Ukraine was also fortunate. Next up for the former TV producer was a visit to a newly formed unit of Ukraine's Special Operations Forces. Dubbed the White Wolves and operating in Zaporizhia, that unit was the first to show Yelizarov how drones could be used in combat. A new idea formed, and it would become the seed from which the Lazar Group was born. According to the Wall Street Journal, Yelizarov purchased an agricultural drone from a group of smugglers who had previously used the machine to sneak cigarettes over the border. "We strapped a 120mm mortar shell to it. We carried out the first use," Yelizarov tells the outlet. "We were thrilled with it." The Wall Street Journal shares what appears to be the footage of that first use, shot directly by the drone. Hovering over a target, the drone carrying the mortar is locked in. "Hit it," comes the command. The mortar falls, the target explodes, and in an instant, Yelizarov must have realized that Ukraine had a low-cost and extremely effective weapon in its hands. Before the summer of 2022, the Lazar Group in its earliest guise had been formed. Working out of a garage that belonged to one of the drone operators who joined the new unit, Yelizarov spent the remaining $680,000 he had in his personal war chest to buy spare parts from China that his team used to start assembling drones. With the new drone developed, Yelizarov donated his own Starlink terminal to be used during its first flight. The drone was destroyed. But the TV producer knew that he had an idea worth building upon. More innovations and growth followed. One of Yelizarov's civilian acquaintances named Mustafa Nayem, who was then Ukraine's Deputy Minister of Infrastructure, provided the new Lasar Group with 4 new Starlink terminals. Yelizarov's group also started experimenting with their drones, with a breakthrough arriving when the group started stuffing 12.5 battery packs into drones that previously used 2. "I didn't understand why a drone should operate for half an hour, at most an hour per shift," Yelizarov says. "A battery pack then costs $1,300, so adding them meant an additional $20,000 per drone. Expensive, but the investment paid off," Yelizarov tells Forbes, adding, "With such a drone, a pilot could strike 16 pieces of equipment overnight, not 2. The work continued, and as the Lazar Group grew, the concept of a McDonald's for drones took flight. "I'm lazy, I don't like to work," Yelizarov joked to Forbes when talking about his managerial style. Rather than being super hands-on, the former TV producer saw his key task, following his massive monetary investment, as building the right team to turn the Lazar Group's drone-based destruction into a well-oiled machine. That's how McDonald's works. The manager takes care of the day-to-day oversight, while the team that they hire runs the business like clockwork. Yelizarov's idea of the right team is one that is made up of almost entirely civilians, which is yet another break from what most would see as military tradition. A staggering 98% of the people brought into the group were former civilians, such as a woman named Nalia, who headed an administrative service at a regular company before she joined the Lazar Group. Another of Yelizarov's masterstrokes has been to form an intelligence team within the Lazar Group that dictates how drones and ammunition are distributed to drone operators. That team is staffed not by members of Ukraine's intelligence community, but by financial analysts who use their understanding of how to move money to ensure drones get to the places they need to be. The Lazar Group had 30 pilots as of October 2025. Yelizarov plans to triple that number. For as non-traditional as the Lazar Group may be, it's been able to reach dizzying heights because its leader doesn't shut the group off from Ukraine's military. Former civilians may be operating inside the bunker, but Yelizarov's group has been absorbed into Ukraine's National Guard, where it became one of the first official drone units of Ukraine's military. Yelizarov could be forgiven for resting on his laurels after achieving something that has been so momentous for Ukraine, but that isn't the former TV producer's style. As much as he may joke about not wanting to work hard, he is one of the main minds behind Ukraine's emerging Army of Drones concept, with one of the many ways that he supports that idea being the inclusion of the Lazar Group in an initiative where drone operators can earn prizes for killing Russian soldiers. The Telegraph reported on this concept on January 25th, revealing that operators get 12 points for killing a Russian occupier, 100 for destroying a helicopter, and 120 if they take a hostage using their drone. Those points are spendable on new drone equipment through Ukraine's Brave One marketplace, creating a gamified cycle that is just one more example of how Ukraine has used innovation ahead of firepower to defend itself against Russia. A member of the Lazar Group who uses the call sign Phoenix told the Telegraph, "It's about competition between units. Everyone wants to be on top." Strange it may seem, but Phoenix's unit placed 4th on the initiative's leaderboard in 2025, and he is clearly motivated to climb the ranks by scoring more drone kills in 2026. Today, the Lazar Group has its operations refined to a science. Starlink provides communication with control centers all across Ukraine, which enables the unit's drones to fly over large distances while staying at the low altitudes needed to avoid Russia's air defense systems. Crews operating on the ground pair with a drone operator and a navigator at the control center, with the former providing intelligence to the latter, who fly hundreds of missions every single night. This is efficiency the likes of which even McDonald's would be envious of, and the results can't be denied. Yelizarov himself provides the raw numbers when speaking to the Wall Street Journal. His group's meticulous records arrive daily, allowing for the accurate recording of everything Lazar's drone operators accomplish. As of January 16th, 2,096 Russian tanks have fallen victim to the Lazar Group's drones, Yelizarov claims. A staggering 3,150 of Russia's armored vehicles are now little more than burned-out husks abandoned on the battlefield due to the efforts of this one drone unit. And Lazar Group keeps on going. 765 units of Russia's self-propelled artillery units have met the Lazar drones. Around 5,500 cargo trucks have discovered that the aerial threat that lurks in the night is as happy to target them as it is to take out Russia's armor. Add all of this to the rest of the equipment that the Lazar Group has destroyed with its drones, and you get a massive number, 24,000 units of equipment. Beyond costing Russia equipment that it intended to use for everything from assaults on Ukraine's defenses to logistics within occupied Ukraine, the Lazar Group's efforts have also indirectly taken billions of dollars out of Putin's invasion fund. According to a January 18th Army Inform report, the Lazar Group has managed to destroy more than a staggering $15 billion worth of Russian equipment since Putin launched his full-scale invasion in February 2022. This number doesn't come from Yelizarov himself. Rather, it's the spokesperson of Ukraine's National Guard, Ruslan Muzychuk, who has revealed just how effective the Lazar Group has been. "We are developing unmanned systems units, and Lazar's group is one of the most effective in Ukraine. Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, they have destroyed equipment worth over $15 billion, Muzychuk reported. More will come. In fact, it already has. On the very same day that Muzychuk shared the $15 billion figure, Defense Express reported that the group's drone operators have managed to disable another 13 pieces of Russian equipment in the Liman sector of the Ukraine war, which is where Ukraine's 3rd Army Corps operates. Working in tandem with that corps, the Lazar Group managed to destroy a fuel tanker, a pair of cargo trucks, and 10 armored fighting vehicles. Fast forward to February 2nd, and the group was at it again. This time, the Lazar Group managed to take out a heavy flamethrower system named the TOS-1A Soltsepyok, which was located in the Belgorod region of Russia. All it took was 4 precise FPV drones. Now, the flamethrower is destroyed. All of these are equipment kills that Yelizarov can add to the Lazar Group's ledger, and in the future, he tells the Wall Street Journal, he wants to do whatever he can to help NATO members develop similar capabilities. But before we get to that claim, we need to dig deeper into what the Lazar Group really represents. This is no civilian unit that is sort of helping out while the Ukrainian military does all of the hard work. The Lazar Group has changed the face of war, transforming drones from experimental weapons into indispensable assets. The innovation, both in thinking and equipment, that has allowed the Lazar Group to become what it has is still very much alive in Ukraine. Drones have changed warfare forever, to the point where their existence has had an enormous impact not only on strategy, but on the psychological aspects of war. Anybody who has seen footage of one of Ukraine's FPV drones bearing down on a Russian soldier will be able to tell you that. Whereas before Putin's invasion, soldiers had to worry primarily about artillery, mortars, and what was deemed more advanced equipment, such as aircraft and the missiles they carry, now it's drones that are the constant threat. Any soldier, be they Russian or Ukrainian, who finds themselves in even semi-open territory now knows that a reconnaissance drone may be hovering overhead. An FPV drone may be on its way. Zones previously thought to be at least somewhat safe are now death traps. As the National Interest put it in June 2025, small and highly maneuverable quadcopters operated by pilots wearing VR goggles, the kamikaze drones proved cheap and highly effective for offering stealthy, precise, and psychologically damaging impacts, forcing troops to constantly scan the skies for these tiny invaders. The mental toll must be immense. And the innovations continue to come. No longer limited to the skies, Ukraine's drones are destroying targets in the water. Ukraine, despite having a very limited navy of its own, has managed to take out about a third of Russia's Black Sea fleet, and many of those warships were struck by drones. Ukraine has managed to sneak drones into Russia itself, as it did during the daring Operation Spiderweb, to attack air bases and Russian aircraft. And 2025 has been the breakout year for Ukraine's long-range drones, which had cost Russia $74.1 billion, or a little over 4% of the country's gross domestic product between January and August alone. In one case, a drone was even able to airdrop an electric bicycle to a wounded Ukrainian soldier, who then used the bike to cycle away from danger. The Lazar Group isn't responsible for all of these innovations, of course. It's more focused on destroying as many of Russia's forces in Ukraine as it can. But Yelizarov was one of the people who laid the groundwork for what has become the new way of war. It's no wonder that both Russia and Ukraine are in a race to build more and better drones. Each time one side comes up with another concept, the other replies with its own. A deadly, machine-focused fencing match is underway, and Ukraine seems to be staying ahead. In November, Forbes reported that Russia was trying to transform its drone strategy by placing its focus on reusable drones ahead of the kamikaze drones that both sides use on the Ukrainian battlefield. The Russian military has even released footage of what it claims to be reusable interceptor drones that it claims can stop Ukraine's long-range drones with methods as ridiculous as dropping a can of stew on it. How legitimate such claims are is a matter of debate, especially as they come from Russia. However, Ukraine has replied by increasing the effectiveness of its frontline drones. Now those drones are killing Russia's soldiers almost as fast as Putin is able to recruit new forces to head into battle. The commander-in-chief of Ukraine's armed forces, Alexander Syrskyi, said in January that December alone brought 33,000 confirmed Russian losses caused by drones, at a time when Russia was recruiting about 36,000 soldiers per month. The drone race is one that both Ukraine and Russia are determined to win. And that brings us back to Yelizarov and his comments about NATO. While Ukraine and Russia are locked in this new form of warfare, NATO's members, particularly those in Europe, are a long way behind. Europe has already lost 2 years of, let's say, preparation for real war, Yelizarov tells the Wall Street Journal when speaking about his desire to take the Lazar Group operation global. What happens is just empty talk, empty words like drones are good. There is absolutely nothing behind those words in Europe, in their defense ministries. It's a damning indictment of the state of Europe's collective preparedness for a drone war the likes of that seen in Ukraine. However, it's not altogether inaccurate. There has indeed been a lot of talk about drones in Europe, though little in the way of action, beyond promises to invest money in manufacturing, often in partnership with Ukraine. There is talk about developing a drone wall to guard parts of Europe, though there is little information about how this type of wall would work or if Europe is even capable of building it. Sure, there is talk about this wall. But even the European Parliament says that the $7 billion European Drone Defense Initiative that is supposed to provide a cutting-edge, interoperable system for countering and deploying drones won't be fully functional until the end of 2027. All of this talk is happening as Russia continues to test European responses with its long-range drones, with such incursions typically prompting responses from rapid response fighter jets. The UK's own Royal Air Force Quick Reaction Alert Team in Lossiemouth has been deployed 76 times since 2018, with 41 of those occasions being related to Russian military aircraft, perhaps including drones. NATO's Secretary-General Mark Rutte is certainly in no doubt about Europe not being ready for a fight with Russia. Speaking in Brussels toward the end of January, Rutte said, "If anyone thinks that Europe can defend itself without the US, keep on dreaming. You can't. We can't. We need each other." Rutte was talking about the sheer power that the US brings to a war. But his overarching point is that Europe needs to do more to prepare for Russia. Just as Yelizarov says, "Our innovation is our only salvation in this war," Yelizarov concludes when speaking to the Wall Street Journal. "The drones will change, as they already have changed everything on the battlefield. This can no longer be denied, and that's the future of all wars. I mean, look, the world will never be the same again." Yelizarov is right, and he believes that NATO, particularly the organization's European members, need to stop talking and start acting. That's what Yelizarov did, and for now, the Lazar Group has turned hunting Russian forces into a business, and business is booming. The McDonald's of drones has played a huge role in weakening Russia's military, to the point where Putin is resorting to using the worst of Russia's soldiers in assaults. Russia has become a cannon fodder nation as Putin sends his soldiers to their deaths against Ukraine's drones. You can learn all about that in our video, and if you want to see more, be sure to subscribe to The Military Show for more insight into the constant evolution of the Ukraine war. And thank you as always for watching.